our next presenter, Aakif. I heard you're a new parent. You want to introduce yourself? You're still on mute there.
Hello, George. I'm sorry. Yep.
Oh, no worries.
Let me share my desktop. Go this side. This thing. All right. So yeah. So thank you, George, for having me. Let me see if I can control my desktop. Okay.
And you're looking good.
All right. Thank you. So yeah. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining the first ever virtual conference for Cloud Custodian. And here is my agenda. So we'll talk about me, give some introduction. And then we have been using the Cloud Custodian since 2017, almost 5 years now. So we'll tell a story a little bit about more how we use Cloud Custodian at Code42 and what made us look for another commercial tool to replace Cloud Custodian. What was the pain points with the Cloud Custodian? And then we went through a journey of looking different vendors. We had several demos. Among those, we selected few, and then we did a POC. And then we will go through some of those conclusions and then final thoughts around those things. About me. So I have 18 plus years of experience in information security. I have been working with Code42 for the last 5 years, and I have various certifications in security from ISA Square, ISACA, EC Council, SANS. A little bit fun fact about me, I'm a father of 3 girls. The first one were the twins, and I was blessed with another daughter last week. So on the right hand side, that's where you see the picture. And I write on the Medium, so you can find my stories related to the Cloud Custodian or any other security related stuff. I write on the Medium. And then you can always contact me on the LinkedIn as well. Okay, how we use Cloud Custodian at Code42. So we started using in 2017. It's been 5 years now, and the security owns the tool and the pipeline. However, anyone within the Code42 can make a request for the Cloud Custodian policy by submitting the ticket to us. So this is not, we are not just using as a security tool, but we embrace this tool everywhere within the Code42, so we can use it for the cost savings, used by the finance team, used by for the operational purposes. So many other teams are using this Cloud Custodian. Either they write the policy or they come to us for the help. So that's how we use this Cloud Custodian across the Code42. And we have about 500 plus policies that are live and running. The policies consists of both, either the action policies or the notify policies. And some of those policies are the CS benchmarks, the tagging, identifying the missing tags, do auto taggings, identify the off hours, identifying the unencrypted resources exposed to the world, and many, many, many other policies. And this is how we structure the policy and the nomenclature. So on the right hand side is the policy structure. So we say, okay, if this is a policy, is this policy an action policy or a notify policy? And then we divide subcategory into different types, whether this is a hygiene policy. The hygiene means just to identify the missing tags or do an auto tagging. So those kind of the hygiene policies. And then we have the security related policies. The cost saving policies are the off hours policies. And the miscellaneous are like if you're looking for the tag counts or you want to count the resources. So those falls under the miscellaneous categories. And then when we write the policy, we think, is this the policy going to act on the existing resources or is going to act on the newly created resources? So the newly created is the on creation policies. On the left hand side, you see is the nomenclature that we adopted. So CSP is the short form for the cost saving policy. N is the notify action. If it's notify, we just say N, and then we take the resources name and then the policy name. So this allows us to identify very quickly what actually the policy does, and is it an action policies or just a notify policies. So we write the YAML policy, we deploy using the CI/CD pipeline. It goes as a Lambda, and then the policy gets triggered based on the CloudWatch event rules. The Cloud Custodian produces the results, the output goes into the S3 buckets, and then we push those into the SIEM solution. And this is where the magic happens. We write a lot of queries within the SIEM, and we also draw the x-axis and y-axis, different kinds of dashboards and visuals, and we take all those data to our cloud governance committee, to the committee, this is what we found and this is how we are doing, and all those kind of good stuff that happens with the dashboards. Okay. So we started using Cloud Custodian in 2017, and in 2020, it's been 3 years we were using the Cloud Custodian. So we understood very well, what are the pain points and what we are looking for the tool and how we are using within the Code42 and what is the management expectations. So what we wanted to see is a single pane of glass. We want a GUI where the management can see, where the developers can get into those tools and can see, where the security can see, and that tool should be mature in all three cloud providers. It should be mature enough with the AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform, and it shouldn't be like you are more better in the AWS and less better in the Azure, and we cannot write the action policies in the Azure or something like that. And then must provide us the dashboard visual so we can tell our story to the governance committee. And then the notification. The notification piece is more like the Cloud Custodian does provide the C7 and Mailer different script, but it's a separate script. So we want something within the tool itself where we simply configure and it do amazing stuff for us, in alerting and notifying us. So in the beginning of 2020, we secured the budget, and then we started looking for the commercial tools to replace the Cloud Custodian. So when we started doing this thing, we got the approval from the management. We put down some of the requirements, the basic requirements, and the parity matching to the Cloud Custodian. What the Cloud Custodian is doing is what the commercial tool can do for us. So these are some of the requirements that I have listed here. It should be the agentless, and we want it on-prem, based on our regulatory requirements. So we cannot use, if it's a SaaS or something like that. We want to write our own rules. We want to write our own take actions, doing some fun stuff, like you notify first and then take some actions and notify, all those kind of crazy things that you can do using the take action policies. And then you should be able to alert, write the notifications. You should be able to see the dashboards. You can draw your own x-axis and y-axis and draw some nice visual. It should be simple to use. Supports the RBAC. The reason behind the RBAC is we don't want the security to be policing everybody. We want the engineers and the developers to come into this tool and look for themselves. What are those findings, and go and fix those things instead of us telling them, this is what's happening. And then this tool should be able to track the exemptions and provide us the inventory. So this, if you look, these are the very basic requirements that we said, okay, we will go and look for those in the commercial tools and we find. So we'll sit and discuss, how we can do the replacement stuff. Okay, so we started demoing. So beginning of January 2020 to March 2020, for the first 3 months, we had several demos. We sat with like 20 plus vendors. Spend a lot of time having the demos, listening to them about their companies, about their tools. And then among those, we found with very difficulty, we found one vendor that was in close match to our requirements, that can satisfy our requirements. And then we decided to run a POC with them. So we spent 1 month doing a POC. And So here is the conclusion from all the demos we had with different vendors. So number one, most of them were the SaaS solution. They do not allow the on-prem installation, and everybody seems to be more focused on AWS cloud provider, and they were early at the Azure and the GCP. They do not allow you to write your own rules. Even if they allow you to write your rules and the guardrails, those were very limited to certain resources. Like you can only write for the EC2 and not for any other resources. They were very early in the stage of the GUI. The GUI was very confusing, very complex. Some vendors we found to be more focused on the cost optimization, so they can do the cost analysis and things like that. Some were more focused on the vulnerabilities. So no dashboard, no visual. You cannot draw your own x-axis and y-axis. To tell the story to your cloud governance committee. And again, about the shift left, they were very early in the stage. We wanted to see something where we can tell during the build pipeline. If we can see things, the developers can start fixing those stuff. So we wanted to adopt the shift left things here. So this is one of the things again we were looking in the commercial tool. They had a different, very complex licensing models. Some were based on the accounts, some were based on the computing, and some were like how much is spent on the cloud, all the cloud providers, and based on those percentage they will charge you. So overall, those were very expensive tools, and at the end of the day, we found, they can do what we want. Very simple requirements we had, and they just cannot do it. So we found, Cloud Custodian is able to do what we wanted today. And among all those several demos, we found one of the vendor to be very close match, and so we decided to run a POC for a month. So here's what we found. So they were able to support all three cloud providers, but again, they were more mature into the AWS, and all other, the Azure and GCP were again at their very early stage. The structure was very similar to Cloud Custodian. That was the thing that led us to do the POC with them. They were very clever in doing the filter frequency action, just like the Cloud Custodian. The main drawback was, they cannot read the configuration metadata, the metrics metadata. So if we take an example with Cloud Custodian, you can have a filters with the value, event values, metrics. You can read all those data and you can write your policies. So, but this tool was lagging those things. You can write the action policies, but the action policies, the guardrails can only be applied on certain resources, not everything. The GUI was confusing, cannot support the containers, don't have the proper asset inventory thing, very early stage at the shift left and the dashboard. So and even though we did this POC to run this tool into our own VPC, it was about to cost us $20,000. So we ran this thing, in our environment for a month, and we did all those analysis, and then we come to those numbers, and plus the licensing fees, based on those complex licensing models. So yeah, so after having the several demos and POCs, we found Cloud Custodian to be very awesome, and it's been contributed by the community. And I know we are doing very well in AWS space. We are getting it there in Azure and GCP slowly. And the same stories with the other commercial tools, like they were more focused on AWS, they are less into the Azure and GCP. So it's the same thing, like if we are getting things from Cloud Custodian, why would we change to a commercial and then pay them, Another thing, Cloud Custodian is so awesome in filters, modes, and actions. Those commercial tools were lagging behind. They were getting those things where you can take the actions, but the actions, you can take the guardrails on very limited resources. Cloud Custodian is, you can do everything. It has a lot of filter items, action items. It's very easy to use, easy to debug. And supported by the community. And the good thing is it costs just over $100 per month for us, to run in our environments. So, and then we have ingested those things into the same solution. So now we see everything in the visual and axis, y-axis, and then we can present this thing to our governance committee. And so the story was very clear. The Cloud Custodian wins here, and we spent like 4 months doing all those things, and we are still with Cloud Custodian. So that's all I have for the presentation. I think we have only 1 minute left, so we can start taking the questions.
Sorry, I was trying to sneak in a lunch there. Any questions in the Q&A? Let me just check both event and the... looks like we don't have any questions so far. Let me just check chat. Brian asked, do you have a dedicated team running Cloud Custodian, and how many AWS accounts in the org does it run against?
Yes, so the tool and the pipeline owns by the security team, but we are embracing across all the functionals, and everybody within the Code42 is using for some of the other purposes. We have allowed them to write their own policies. If they need help, they come to us, to security team, and we have deployed in hundreds of accounts, hundreds of AWS accounts, and 50 plus accounts in Azure. Yes.
Brian, if you have a follow-up question, we'll just wait. I know there's a delay between the chat Q&A and live. Sunny asks, a question from fan in the event chat too. Do you have interaction with other security teams like SOC, InfoSec, Arch, Red Team, etc.?
Yes, we do. So when we present this data to the governance committee, in the governance committee we have those the presentation from those pillars, the SOC team and the Red Team, and then everybody gives their input, what kind of policies we should be looking for. If the Red Team is doing those exercises, they see something, the misconfiguration they think about. So those comes as an idea to us, and then we start writing those policies. So yes, everybody collaborate together, and everybody has the output from the custodian, what custodian is doing and what delivering and where we want to go.